Hey everybody, this is my 20 long open topped office tank, and we're just going to have a little look at it tonight, a little chat, nothing particular on my mind. I'm just trying to stay out of the fish room for the most part today. I've been working on my gourami tank down there. I've got one of the tanks blacked out, and so I'm keeping all the lights low in the room, and I'm actually going to give everybody in the fish room a fast day today, so I'm not really going to do anything at all in there except go in later and turn all the tanks out that are currently lit. So tonight we're going to have a little look at my office tank and just have a little chat about what's going on in it, which is honestly not a whole lot. But the plants are something I want to talk about. Mainly I want to talk about this temple plant you can see that is growing Emergent. I recently considered cutting this top section off. You can see how I'm getting some side branching going on there. If I cut it, say here, we would get much more vigorous growth off of these lower branches. And in fact, the hormone change in the plant to respond to being cut that way would cause all of the nodes on the branches to grow. So we get side growth and we'd get a lot more dense, bushy growing. But I'm not so sure I want to do that. I'm getting a lot of good, vigorous growth. I'm getting good color on the leaves. I really like the way it looks. And it's under good lighting, but it's not so intense that I'm really concerned about it overlighting anything. And so I might just let it keep going. I don't know how tall temple plants actually get, but because of the way I've got this light set up, it's very homemade, rigged together, and the upright right here is just a piece of PVC pipe. In fact, the whole entire stand, if you want to call it a stand, is PVC pipe. So if I needed to, and this plant grows another 6 inches and gets a little closer to the light than I want it, I can always just put a slightly longer piece of pipe in here and just raise the bar up and then put a little more reflective foil on there just as a light shield, so it's not, lighting up the entire room and like blinding me as I stand here or sit at the desk. But it's a very adjustable light, and I might be able to just see how big and bushy we can actually get this. So I'm kind of excited about that. I'm going to let this grow as it is for now, and we'll see what happens. And then the other plants I want to talk about are my water sprite right here, which are still just not doing very well. At one point I thought maybe the light I had on there before, which was an LED and it was very intense, I thought possibly that was overlighting it and it was too bright, but I gave that a little bit of thought and decided that that's simply not the case. And I think what we are experiencing with these plants is that all of these little guppies in here are just nibbling away at the roots. And of course I've got a rainbow shark in here as well, and the rainbow shark gets in there and nibbles away at the roots too. Let me move this. I got a bunch of stuff in a chair right here that's really brightly lit, and it's making a bunch of reflection in the tank. I don't know if I'm going to push it out of the way or not. So that'll give us a little clearer look at the tank, a little less reflection in there. So somewhere in there is a rainbow shark, and the rainbow shark nips on the roots of the water sprite as well. Let me try to get a little bit of fish food here, get my hand out of the jar without getting it stuck. Put a little food in this end. Of course, it just flows right on down the length of the tank very quickly to this end. And usually within a moment or two of putting some food in the tank, we'll see the rainbow shark coming out. There he is. I say he, but I actually don't know whether that's a he or a she. Well, it was down there somewhere. Now I don't see it again. Oh, there it is. So that one gets in there and nips on the roots. And I also have a clown pleco in this tank. And the clown pleco, to my knowledge, does not cause any issues whatsoever with any of the plants. I've never had problems with any of my little plecos damaging the plants. I do have a big pleco. It's a sailfin in my 55-gallon T-bar tank downstairs, and I've got anubias. I've got really big anubias in that tank, and I don't know if it's diatom algae or whatever it is, but I get like reddish brown stuff that grows on the leaves, and the big pleco in that tank as well as a few other fish, actually scrape those leaves so vigorously that over time you do start to see some wear and tear on the leaves. And that's an anubias. An anubias has leaves that are like linoleum, so something that would be more delicate, I would imagine, might suffer under the loving caresses of a large pleco. But the little clown pleco I have in here, I don't think is, causing any issues whatsoever. We're clearly not seeing any damage on the leaves down there. We're not seeing any damage on any of the fern or anything. So I can't imagine somehow that pleco is damaging the roots of my water sprite. And that's where the issue is. If you look in here, if you look at the root balls, they're almost non-existent. You can barely see them. If you're familiar with some of my tanks downstairs, you'll know that the root balls on these are massive. They're huge, flowing, they look like mops floating in the water, and these just simply do not. And they never do. They don't grow, they don't get any bigger, they just always kind of hang out like that. So I think that's what's going on. It's the best explanation I've got at this point. Let's leave it at that, because it's clearly not nutrients. I don't do anything different in this tank than I do in any of my others. All of the other plants are doing well. That temple plant's actually doing better than any temple plant I've got in any other tank anywhere in my house. So I find it hard to believe that something as simple and easy to grow as water sprite, which again, if you're familiar with my various tanks and whatnot, I've just got buckets and buckets of water sprite everywhere, and yet it simply just doesn't grow in this tank. So it's something specific to this tank. It's not the water or the nutrients or something like that. I'm chalking it up to those guppies mainly, and probably that shark is in there nibbling away at them too. So again, nothing really on my mind. Just figured I'd chat a little bit and give everybody a look at this tank for a while. This one's always fun to look at. I always enjoy the tanks that have lots and lots of small fish in them. I'm not really a monster tank and a monster fish kind of guy. I like big tanks, but I like my big tanks to have lots of activity and community and stuff like that in them. And this tank, for being a fairly small tank, certainly has lots of activity and community going on in there. I suppose one of these days I'm going to need to get in there and thin that guppy population out a little bit. I got plenty of places I can put them. So that's about it. I'm going to get on with the rest of my evening. As I said, we're staying out of the fish room for the most part tonight, but if you're subscribed, you won't miss anything that's going to be coming up or any of the exciting stuff that's going to be happening with my gourami tank as we get in there and finish beating up on that blackbeard algae that I've started working on. So once again, make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget, this one is my 20-gallon office tank. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you real soon on the next one.